Saints 3. Is the canonization of saints infallible? Is the canonization of saints something infallible in the church? We could say to ourselves, but no, there is no infallibility. The infallibility promised to the church, it affects only one point, namely when the popes and the councils united to the pope define the universal doctrine of salvation. It means what heaven is and how to get to heaven, but in general, even in a particular doctrine, for example in such and such an era, it may be necessary to wage war or not to wage war. The church remains prudent. She is not infallible. She does what she can. And so the canonization of saints is not a universal doctrine of salvation. It is, on the contrary, individual destiny of a person who lived on earth and who would be in paradise. Well, here is what to say. For a whole part of the history of the church, the canonization of the saints had been performed by acclamation of the people. The peoples had esteemed in their feelings that such and such a person was a great saint, and they cheered, and suddenly we prayed to him, we considered him as a saint. This was the case, for example, for Charlemagne, Saint Charlemagne. Charlemagne had never been a saint, in fact. If we knew that it was his life, we would have realized that he made attempts terrible to forcibly evangelize the Saxons, completely slaughtering parts of these people. On the other hand, in his private life, he was, I would say, covered with luxury and women. Result, at one point when the church knew a little more about these saints who sometimes did not even exist, well, she took them out of the Roman calendar. So is there infallibility? Well, I would say that at some point the church realized that for the canonization of the saints it was necessary to do otherwise. It had to be done in 3 stages. First step, an investigation into the doctrine of the person considered holy by the people. So we look at her. The people want her canonization. She may be declared venerable. It doesn't imply that she is in heaven, but it does mean that she is worshipped. And we see if she has a good doctrine. This is the first point. If she supports heresy, something that is against a formally defined dogma, it cannot come from God. Second, we will look at the holiness of his life, of his virtues, the heroic nature of his virtues in combat. If it turns out that she behaved well, really there will still be a positive a priori, but only a priori. There is no infallibility here. A person apparently holy, in fact, can hide a double heart, unhealthy intentions, show off, etc. As a result, a third essential step is needed, that the finger of God mark his will. The church asks that through the intercession of this saint there is a real miracle coming from God, not a miracle. What is a prodigy? This is something that could be explained by a natural law. For example, to be cured of cancer in 3 months. A miracle is to be cured of cancer like lightning. It is, for example, an arm that grows back, an incurable disease, degenerative, that disappears, and that disappears forever. For example, for St. John Paul II, a woman with the same disease as him, Parkinson's disease, which is incurable, and the damage is definitive. This nun healed by praying John Paul II. So it was recognized. From there, when the investigation is well done, we can verify that there is a real miracle, which is therefore opposed to the fundamental laws of biology, of nature. Well, we can say that the finger of God has spoken, and the canonization, depending on the first 2 steps, will engage an infallibility of the church. she is not mistaken because God has spoken, so it is a form of infallibility. The second, which does not relate it to dogmas but which relates to something serious where God engages with the church. Likewise, there could be this kind of procedure for the recognition of the apparitions of the Virgin Mary. It does not exist at the moment, so as we do not ask for a miracle that proves objectively that the apparition comes from God, well, for the moment, the recognition of the apparitions is not infallible. But if one day the recognition code integrates this aspect, then we will be able to enter into something certain.